Hey everyone, in today's episode, I'm going to discuss a new thing I'm going to do, and it's going to be a monthly update of the property market, pretty much nationwide in all the areas I discuss. So this obviously episode is the September 2025 market update. And in this episode, I'm just going to get into a few different things, and it'll be pretty consistent across all my updates. So first things first, what's new in September? Secondly, the overall market conditions. Thirdly, the city market conditions. And then finally, the best regions to buy in. So look, what's really new in September? So first things first, the interest rate cut is new in September. So that's basically, it's flown through to nearly all mortgage holders at the moment. Some of the smaller lenders haven't done it yet, but the vast majority, it's probably 80 to 90% of them have actually done it now. Obviously, the 5% deposit scheme has also come in just as of recently, and now that's just fuel on the fire. It's not actually in actual legislation or actually through yet, but it has been announced and it is going to come through as of the end of this month. Market demand has been increasing. So, look, what do I really mean by that? Lately, you've had significantly more buyers come into homes. Significantly less sellers in certain locations. So I'd argue probably your Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth, particularly Perth, it's just held its demand. That's what I'd probably say. There's plenty of people still looking. It was already hot before that. But particularly in Melbourne, particularly in Newcastle, particularly in, I'd say, regional New South Wales, regional Victoria, Geelong as well, included in that, Central Coast and Wollongong in New South Wales, the market demand is definitely increasing. And finally, the rental vacancy rates are starting to fall. So the reason for that happening is mainly because we've got quite large immigration creeping back up again. I thought I knew that would happen, but a lot of people listened to what the government said, didn't watch what they did. But anyway, that's creeping back up. So, and we're not building enough homes. So I think from memory, I was reading, a AFR review the other day. I think the government last year fell something like 60 or 70,000 homes short of their target of it was 1.2 million in 5 years. So I think they were supposed to do 240,000. I think they did about 167 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. You can just search it up. It was on the AFR recently. But we've got more people coming. We don't have enough dwellings, and particularly in the key areas, the vacancy rates are quite low, and they're going to continue to fall because we just don't have enough dwellings in those locations. So that's kind of what's happened at the moment and what's kind of new in September. A lot of this is just shifted as of, over the last couple of weeks. But look, the overall market conditions really is that the market's definitely shifting in all major markets. So I don't care what market you are in. You could even include Darwin and Hobart in this as well. Darwin's already piping up. Hobart is definitely leveling out, and there's definitely a little bit of more demand in there. I don't have to talk about any of the others because everyone already knows that. Most of the people watching this are probably from any of the other major cities anyway. There's a significant increase in attendees at open homes. So it is actually scaring people a bit. The one thing I'd say is there's definitely more buyers, but there's definitely more buyers, and it is harder to get a good deal at the moment, but it's going to become a lot more harder when you get a lot more serious buyers in. When you get these developers that start to come in and they can actually bid. So what I'm talking about is the genuine buyers, and I have listed that here. So you do have more genuine buyers, but you don't have all of them quite yet. As of probably later this year, particularly October, November, December, and especially next year, you'll have the developers, you have the flippers, you have every single person in the world who will become a genuine buyer. And when they're in the market, particularly developers and flippers, they're not there to kind of piss around. They're there to buy. So when you get those sorts of guys that are in there, they will. Some of them will keep their hand in the air until they buy the house at an auction. They will not care about how much they're buying it for, even if it's 40% above the market value, because what they'll do is they'll demolish it and put a stack of units on a house, or they might own the house behind, they might own a house next door, they might have an agreement somewhere. Or they might you genuinely have sometimes even people who are very wealthy who just want to buy the house. good examples in the Asian community that, I mean, I'm half Vietnamese, so I understand it. A lot of them, if they want a house, they just buy it. They do not care. They buy it. If they have the money, they buy it. And you'll get those people back in the market soon. So that's what's going on. Very low stock levels. Now, it is ridiculous since COVID, especially. It was already on a downward trend from probably, I'd say, about 2014 right through to about 2019. But then COVID came. There was a little bump in the short COVID period. I mean, when I mean the short COVID period, I mean there was a little bump when COVID was actually going on. And then what happened was it went down even further than previously. And that number in the key suburbs is down even further now. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. I was like look, Newcastle's an area at Target, Mayfield's a suburb by Target. You used to have 20 to 30 homes on the market at any point in time. That number in the right area is now like 3. I kid you not. It's gone through the floor. It's not even like halved. It's like quartered in most circumstances of the homes that are on market at any point in time. And that's consistent across a lot of the country. That's not only, for example, Newcastle. It's most of the good areas that I mentioned. This is just continuing. It's even happening in some rubbish locations as well because there's just nothing on the market. And people are becoming very wary to sell their homes now as well because they know they have to buy something else and they know there's a housing crisis. People aren't stupid. If they see on the news people living in tents and that kind of thing, they don't want to, live on the streets, so they don't want to sell their homes. Most people actually get a bridging loan or already have a lease in place before they move out of their home for when they can buy their new home. So that's becoming a real thing in Australia, and it's not a good thing, but it is here to stay. It's definitely here to stay. I'll tell you that right now. Then finally, the price points are largely driving certain markets. So give you a good example. Sydney's inner west, right? Anything sub $2 million in Sydney's inner west is bound to attract triple the amount of inquiry and people coming through an open home than anything above $2 million. I'll tell you that right now. It's the same as some parts of Melbourne's inner west that's sub $1 million in certain suburbs. That'll attract attention. Sub 900K in Newcastle, sub 700K in Geelong. All of these areas with certain price points are attracting ridiculous demand. And I actually say to some people that don't buy in this suburb because it's going to attract ridiculous demand, spend slightly more. Sometimes I tell people in Geelong, so a good example is properties sub 600 or 550 grand. Some suburbs that I was previously buying in there have now already gone up to that price, and they're not as good as other suburbs that you can actually buy for the same price on. Now, I won't mention them, but for people that want to look at the videos, have a look at my Geelong videos. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I do describe it there. Markets don't move linear, and when you look at a market, like for example, a Geelong market, yes, it's taking the aggregated amount of the market, but certain suburbs are doing better, certain ones aren't. The ones that aren't but have better long-term growth prospects or good long-term growth prospects, that's identifying that it's actually a decent opportunity to buy it, to give you an idea. So, I mean, that's what I mean by buying on the right part of the market cycle. And again, price points are really important when you go and buy properties. It can be the difference between, 5 to 20% long-term growth if you're buying it at the right time. And even if you take the lower part of 5% and you're buying for $1 million, you'd rather have the 50K in your pocket than someone else's, right? So that's the part of the overall market conditions kind of going on at the moment. So, as I said to everyone, pretty simple topic. I'm going to now get into just the current conditions of each city. So I'll just do it via my pretty much property clock. So I'm going to go from 6 to the 4 mark, and then I'll also go and do Brisbane and Perth as well. I think in this I'll actually include Hobart because I think it's an area that I do want to start to talk about because it is in its stabilisation phase. But first I'll start with Melbourne. Pretty simple. There's increasing demand pretty significantly. There's a big fight towards set and forget kind of properties, particularly those located close to town or village centres. They're doing very well. The inner suburbs, especially if you throw about a 12K ring around the city, they're becoming very tightly held. Stock levels are very low. There's also not only that too, but there's not very many bargains left on the market. Those are all pretty much gone. If you want a bargain, you really need to deal with someone who knows what they're talking about, like me or someone, or at least know someone with the right connections. It's very hard to find a good bargain if you don't know how to go looking for it. You don't know how valuations kind of work. There's very strong growth in some inner north, west, and eastern suburbs. So a good example of that's Spotswood Aberfeldy and Box Hill, some very strong results there. Spotswood, believe it or not, late last year, I bought for a client there, right across the road from a park for $850,000. That is valued at $1.2 million today. And the reason I bought it then was because it had an anomaly of a slight market downturn, and also there wasn't people looking in the market. That guy has made, I think, $350,000 in the space of about 9 months. I kid you not. And in the space of about 9 months. But anyway, there's some very strong results in those areas. And I was talking about these areas months ago, mind you. So again, for people that didn't want to listen, you've probably missed out on some of those opportunities. Mind you, in saying that, there's still some great opportunities within about the 10K ring or so, give or take a K or two. To give you an example, you can watch my Premier Properties videos. I mean, I've got properties within that range that still sub $1 million and perform exceptionally well over the long term. So, I mean, that's some of the opportunities in Melbourne at the moment. Very, very good in saying that. That's the Melbourne market, increasing demand. Let's get into Geelong. Geelong at the moment does have extremely heavy demand from investors in some very heavy investor pockets. Some markets have moved very significantly and others are just starting to pick up. There's a fight towards gentrifying regions close to the CBD. Rents have increased incredibly strongly over here. I mean, some areas by 15 to 20%. I'll give you an example. I had a client last year who bought in Newcomb for about, I think it was 510K or something like that. I think it was 510K from memory. Perfectly decent home, rented out, perfectly, good, street and everything, like 500 meter square plus block. If you look at the average decent home in Newcomb now, they're renting for around $500 a week. It was renting for $400 back then, to give you an idea. That has picked up by like 15 to 20% in a single year. So some of these areas are incredibly strong in rental at the moment, and they've gone up like $180 to $100 a week. I kid you not, for the same house in like a year. There's a lot of city and interstate money flowing in here, and this is for both reasons of, should I say, interstate investors, people also moving down here to live because they can afford to still live there comfortably and have a family. So that's quite common in Geelong as well. And there's a large component of people moving to inner suburbs. So a fight for quality, as I said previously, that is very consistent across Geelong. It is going to continue. That will continue to stay the way it is. That's what's going on. Suburbs such as Corio, North Geelong and Thompson have had major sales. Corio, especially, to give you an idea, I was picking up properties last year for literally in the mid to late 400s that are perfectly good to rent. I think one even was $445,000. It was a corner block in a very good part of the suburb. Now, that client of mine, I think, has made something like above $100,000 in like a year. I kid you not, easily above $100,000 in a single year he's probably made. So that's like 20% growth or something like that in the space of a year. So well done to you, mate. You're probably watching this video, so congratulations. But North Geelong and Thompson are no different. There's even properties going in the wrong pockets of both of these suburbs that are going for ridiculous amounts of money. Make sure you're in the right pockets. Don't do it yourself if you do not know what you're doing, because again, the better pockets are going to do much better over the long term in these areas. Newcastle. Again, I mentioned this previously, incredibly low stock levels in key suburbs, particularly wards 1 and 2. Ward 1 is pretty much your city beaches region. Sorry, no, Ward 1, pardon me, I got that mixed up. Ward 1 is your city to inner west region. Ward 2 is your city beaches region. You can search it up and have a look if you want to know where it is. There's a lot of renovations, redevelopment, and larger homes being developed, and this is even in your smaller cottage-style suburbs. I've seen heaps of knockdown rebuilds. Some of them bought for, a flat $1 million, resold for $2.2 million in some suburbs. I'm sure you probably spend $600,000 doing it, but that's still quite a good profit. Developers largely looking at certain markets, especially from the Sydney's North Shore. There's a lot of North Shore developers that I know of, and a lot that I know from Northern Sydney. It might be even Hornsby, Northern Beaches, that are starting to buy these blocks up, whether it's existing homes, owner builders and that are going to develop all of these. So it's further going to gentrify these suburbs. Demand is largely pushing a well-located, high-quality and already strong suburbs with strong demographics. So again, where the money is, there's more money going into these areas. Yes, the other markets are picking up, but they're not picking up fundamentally as strongly and with good long-term fundamentals as much as some of these suburbs. Now, There's some very strong suburbs, particularly in Mayfield and Mayfield East. So the pockets that I like to buy in, particularly in these suburbs, there's been some ridiculous sales. I had a very good friend of mine who bought for $886,000 in one of these suburbs literally last year. And there was actually a four-bedder, so that's even more. There was a three-bedder down the road that nearly sold for $1.1 million the other day. That I consider to be a significantly worse house than this one. So, if you got I think online it says, you got that's $1,050,000 or something. So it's around $200,000 in a year or so. But like for him, I think if you went to a few banks, you probably get it valued above 1.1. That recent sale being a three-bedder will make a four-bedder look even better. Furthermore, in Newcastle, there's some possible record-breaking sales listed in some suburbs. So it's wards 1 and 2 particularly. There's one in Tyres Hill that I think may break the suburb record. It's a very, very good home. The right street, right location, that will probably break the record of the suburb. There's some also that I think in around Cooks Hill and Newcastle East that may possibly, there's one that's actually off market that is strictly owned by a very high-profile person that may also break a suburb record there as well. So that's what's kind of going on there. That market it's not stabilizing anymore. I haven't done my property clock update for the last quarter yet, but I will have that very soon. And yeah, that will, definitely change the market significantly. My October update, that it's not going to be it's going to be past the 6 o'clock mark. I'll tell you right now, it's in the Newcastle market, 100%. The market shifted, some very expensive prices at the moment, and that policy is only going to make it worse. So that's what's going on in the Newcastle market at the moment. Let's get into the Central Coast. So what's going on the Central Coast is there's increasing demand, particularly strong demand in properties close to lifestyle and transport regions. And because of that, there's very low stock in many existing estates. So in the Central Coast, there's a few key regions, and go through my Central Coast episodes if you want more detail about this. But I'm telling you right now that the key regions of the area, there's quite a lot of demand. The numbers are up quite significantly. It's not as easy as it was 6 months ago. Listing prices were probably 5% less. They're above 5% to what they were 6 months ago. So to give you an idea, the Central Coast is already going up. That 5% deposit scheme is going to already affect it worse. The transport-orientated plan's another thing on the fire. Low to medium density housing code is also another one that's actually affecting this area quite a bit. There's demand from pretty much everyone in these areas as well. Developers, first-home buyers, investors, upgraders, flippers, wealthy investors or wealthy just land bankers or holiday home buyers. They're all buying here still as well. Particularly strong sales in Long Jetty, East Gosford and Springfield. Surrounding suburbs of this are doing quite well as well, mind you, and they will continue to do so. Long Jetty, mind you, I was still seeing stuff 6 months ago there for, a touch over a flat $1 million, like that would in the right streets and right locations. Now they're like $1.2 million. It's just what happens with the right stock in the right locations. Like I say this to people all the time. Don't piss around if if you generally are able to get in the market. You just need to get and buy as soon as possible and just see what happens. You can't dictate what is going to happen in the future. You don't know that. You can only do not with what is going to be. That's just the way it kind of works. There's also at the moment some significant waterfront estates for sale. So particularly around Brisbane Water, there's some quite expensive ones on the market. There's quite a few about to list. People know that the market's going up. There's a lot of demand. They know immigration's strong as well. So people aren't stupid. People who have expensive estates generally don't sell when the market's down. You'd be very lucky to pick up a good one when the market's down. They generally sell when the market is expensive because if there are no occupy and there's no capital gains tax or any taxes on a family home, they're just going to wait till the market moves back up and get the right price of their property. So that's what's happening in the Central Coast. Market's already shifting. It has already shifted a little bit. A lot more to come. As of October, that will shift even more, no doubt. All right, Sydney. So demand's increasing in certain locations. Others are a little bit flat otherwise. So your mid-Sydney is a little bit flat at the moment, to be transparent. Like there is sales, but it's a little bit flat. There's particularly strong demand amongst development sites along train lines. So, give you an example. I mean, I've been to a few of the inner west suburbs. Properties with on land, anything above 400 meters squared, anywhere near a train line is selling for in the like multi-million dollars worth of money. It's just developer against developer. I mean, you've got syndicate versus syndicate. You've even got like freaking like government agencies and stuff like that buying these, to give you an idea. It's not your average buyer. That's who's buying them. Demand is also very strong in outer future city locations. So again, look at the 6 cities data and the 6 cities actual PDF and report. If you look at the CBD centres of Parramatta, I mean, even the Campbelltown one, even the Penrith one, there's developers going crazy in anything close to these ones. Rents are increasing significantly, particularly along train lines, close to major facilities and such as universities, hospitals, and those other things. Inner West, anywhere like that, in Lower North Shore, Inner East of Sydney, anywhere that's a good area to buy, that's somewhere near a hospital or university or anything like that. Good luck getting a place to rent for a decent amount of money. I had a friend who used to lease a property with 2 others in Ashfield. So it's in the inner west of Sydney. It's not even like a wealthy inner west suburb. I'd call it like a middle class inner west suburb. They used to pay us something like $800 and something a week. And now for everyone elsewhere, that's a cheap price for Sydney. Their rent went up to $1,080 a week for a 3-bedroom unit literally in Ashfield. And it wasn't even next to the station. It was probably a good 10-minute walk from the station. So that's what's happening. It's going to continue to happen. Lately as well, there's been particularly strong sales in North Sydney, Chatswood, Mossman and Little Bay. Again, as I said, I've said this plenty of times, search up my Sydney videos. In Sydney, the ones that generally lead the charge are the fundamentally strong suburbs. It's your generally wealthy Lower North Shore. That's North Sydney, Chatswood and Mossman are all a part of that, and your eastern suburbs. So Little Bay's in the lower east, but it's still a part of the eastern suburbs peninsula. I'll say as well, there's some quite strong ones in the inner west as well, particularly the ones along those areas I'm talking about. So, yeah, you're going to see this continue. They're leading the charge. Sydney market's turning again, as it always does over time. There's also expensive estates all over Sydney listed for early spring. So it's not only – so this is a crazy thing about Sydney. I'm seeing houses even out west sell for like $5-6 million. I'm seeing them in like Kellyville. I even saw one – in the Camden region, and it was on a big block, don't get me wrong, sold for like $7 million the other day. So there's money floating around everywhere here. It's not the same as all other markets. It's a lot of international, very wealthy money flowing here. Very wealthy families continuing to buy this, syndicates buying these assets and all that kind of thing too. That's Sydney anyway. Unique market, but that's what's going on here. Wollongong, it's a fairly flat market at the moment. It's slightly starting to increase. Well-priced suburbs are particularly strong in demand, and there's limited available stock for sale, particularly detached houses. So well-priced stock. So, for example, the inner northern suburbs of Wollongong, flat as well, but well-priced stock doing well. Particularly the suburbs down south are doing quite well. So I'll get into that in a second. There's a lot of large-scale development sites, particularly around the CBD, between the station and the main beach there, and North Gong Beach. Bad time to buy a townhouse or apartment there. They're not going to do much. They're bloody expensive as well, and there's just so much of it going on. Just walk from the lighthouse to North Gong, and then try to make your way to the station. If you don't believe me, you'll see how many new units are going up. It is like a city itself now. It's crazy. If you buy a detached house there, though, a developer's going to love you, and the gross realisation value of the land will be insane. So I will say that. Strong sales, as I said previously, are coming in towards particularly South Wollongong and Shell Harbour oceanfront suburbs. So very strong sales in Port Kembla, very strong in Warilla, Barak Heights, those sorts of suburbs. Some very, very good sales there, big, expensive ones as well, and median sales going up quite high. There's actually some very good opportunity, though, in your blue chip northern suburbs. I'm not talking about your most expensive ones. I mean, probably from about Mount Ousley right up to Woonona. A lot of those are very flat at the moment. You're still picking up in the low millions. Those are very well located properties, very good long-term prospects. That's where I'm targeting at the moment for any clients who want to buy that. That's a good area to buy, great livability. That's where you want to buy if you're buying in Wollongong at the moment. All right, I'm getting into one that I don't talk about too often, and that is Hobart. Now, Hobart's at the moment, it's a fairly flat market. It's, look, maybe about a year or so ago, I'd say it was in its downturn. It's definitely leveled out now. The rental market was quite stable as well, but it's starting to shift again. Lower vacancy rates are ahead. The reason for that is because stock levels have leveled out, and it's not many investors are targeting it at the moment. Some have sold. It's not due to taxes or anything. It's just they move their money a lot of the time, a lot of the investors, and it's a lot of owner occupiers buying it. So, I mean, what's happening there is there's just not enough stock for the amount of it's the stock levels are way too low in the right suburbs for the amount of people needing to rent a home. So it's quite sad, but it is happening, and it's a small city too. There are some solid sales though going around in some main suburbs. So some larger estates in the city, especially South Hobart and Sandy Bay. There's some quite expensive ones on the market at the moment. Now, whether they get what they want for it or not, I don't know, but I think you'll see they'll probably get for around the asking price, maybe slightly more, because it is shifting. To be honest, around the city, it's actually a good opportunity for low-risk investments. Now, I don't think it'll do much in the next year or two. It might pick up a little bit because of the policies in the market, but it's a market where you know you're not going to really lose too much money because it's just stabilizing. It might take a few years for it to pick up, but you're holding for 10 plus. I mean, you're probably going to do fairly well because it's already leveled out. So once it's had its downturn, it's leveled out for a little while. It's quite I'd say risk off kind of market to buy in, because you know it's not going to do, it can't really go down too much more. Yeah, it can stabilize, but its next move is definitely up. It's just how much time it takes to go up. The other thing about it is it's still possible to find deals sub 650 grand. My favorite would still be Geelong for that market, for that kind of price. But if you wanted to go elsewhere, Hobart, you can still buy for it. It just won't realize as quickly because it's at a different point in its market cycle. But you can still pick it up there. So, I mean, beautiful city. I don't think you're going wrong buying here. You'll do fairly well still buying here. So that's Hobart there as well. Let's get into Brisbane. Now, Brisbane's further on the property clock. There's still some good opportunity here, so I'm still going to mention it. Brisbane at the moment, there's some very strong results in the north and east. And again, I've said this to people multiple times, that's your best location to buy because it's got the most to go. Strong demand to larger family homes in quiet streets. A good family home in a good street is selling for quite a bit of money, particularly if it's in the right location, in known school zones and proximity to the CBD. Vacancy rates again are starting to fall, and I don't need to go over that. I've been discussing this for months, that it will shift again and go back down. And it's exactly what's happening because I knew where immigration and stock levels were going in terms of building. There's a very strong job market, particularly in inner suburbs. All the jobs are in about a 10K ring around the CBD in Brisbane. It's not like other cities. That's going to is continuing to happen, and that's what's going on. Some very strong sales like in Coorparoo, Ashgrove, and Camp Hill. Again, these are all fundamentally strong suburbs. All of these suburbs, mind you, aren't ones I'd be buying in at the moment because their prices, they're going to continue to go up, but not as much as some suburbs nearby, which is what I'm talking about. There's some good opportunities in spillover suburbs that are nearby. For everyone's information, one suburb I think that it has great opportunity and is so underpriced is Hurston. It's basically the Queensland health suburb of Brisbane. I mean, it's got everything you need there. It's very well located. Like most of it doesn't flood. It's on kind of a little bit of a Hurston Hill. So it's quite a good area to buy. That's a good example. Inner north, inner east. Inner north, you can probably include the inner city in some ways as well. But yeah, these areas are the ones you want to buy. Excellent opportunities here. That's Brisbane. Finally, let's get into Perth. Now, Perth is approaching its winner's curse phase of the cycle, so be wary of this. There's continuing strong demand here. I mean, Perth hasn't really, you could argue demand's shifted a little bit. It has calmed down in some areas, but not all, but it's still fairly strong in saying that. 5% deposit scheme will affect some markets, many of them, to be honest. A lot of the strongest sales in the northern suburbs, particularly close to the job hubs. Some outer excerpts are starting to show signs of slowing down. Simply, they're too expensive for what you buy. People rather live in existing estates than new estates if the prices hit a similar mark. So that's what's kind of happening. The economy of WA is very strong. The resources is still going ballistic. No doubt about that. There's some very strong sales lately in Duncraig, Hillary's and Rivervale. I've mentioned this previously, suburbs in the inner north and very inner south of Perth and right up to the Joondalup northern suburbs are generally your best ones to buy, and they have the best long-term fundamentals. They have a lot of long-term residents, and Perth is renowned for having a number of suburbs that are full of FIFO workers, which aren't good long-term, because when the market goes out, they struggle. Your longer-term suburbs are pretty much in all locations like this. Your best opportunity again in the future is surrounding Joondalup suburbs. Some of them still have a bit to go. So that's going to help you. And with those, also just with the income in these suburbs, long-term residents, and some of these things that are coming in the market, like the 5% scheme, they are going to affect some of these suburbs even more. So, I mean, that's going to continue. That's your best area to buy in Perth. Without question, I mean, that's what we really want to do when we're looking at that market. But anyway, let's get into really what the best regions are to buy in Australia. Now, I showed you the property clock recently, and it's going to go exactly via that. Number one draft pick, Melbourne, 100%. No doubts about that. Melbourne is the best draft pick for sure, followed by Geelong. Both of these markets, a lot of them haven't done that much for a number of years. Now, they've done a bit over the COVID period, don't get me wrong, but the suburbs in both of them have done almost nothing for 7 or 8 years, mind you. Now, historically, some of these have done 9 to 10% capital growth. So no doubt about that. Newcastle, Central Coast. Now, Newcastle and the Central Coast have done decently since COVID in the last 10 or so years, don't get me wrong. But their markets that generally, they can go silent for a little while, but their markets are generally a kind of lower flying markets where you get like 3 to 10% growth a year. When they go silent, it's generally just in the lower sort of digits of percentage growth, but they don't really, they'll sometimes correct by up to 10%, but it's not often they do that. They're kind of gradual sort of flying markets. Including Sydney and Wollongong too. Sydney and Wollongong are a little bit different. They can have a little bit more swings. But, I mean, that 5% deposit scheme up to 1.5 million is going to put ridiculous numbers on some of these areas. It's just going to push it up more. Sydney, there's a lot of money still flowing into Sydney, a lot of international money as well. So don't get confused by that. It is going to continue to go up. It's just what is going on. Whether you like it or not, it will continue to pick up in value. So those are my primary regions. And the reason I'm saying they're my primary regions is because predominantly I'm targeting these regions. Your secondary locations really are your Hobart, Brisbane and Perth. So Hobart is the best of the secondary locations because it's just in its stabilisation period. I don't think it'll do much over the next coming years, maybe 10% or something, like maybe 15, I don't know. But just because of schemes and what's going on in the market, interest rates. But, I mean, towards the latter part of the next 10 years, it'll do pretty well to pick back up and go through its cycle again. Brisbane, the best locations are easily the inner north and inner east. I've mentioned that previously. Brisbane is towards the latter end of its boom phase in a lot of the other areas. But because you've got the Olympics coming up and because you've got quite good economy there and quite good fundamentals in some of the areas, it is going to still pick the market up for sure. Perth, be very wary of it. I said only Joondalup, city beaches and inner city regions. So it's that area you want to buy. The fundamental areas where people live long term in Perth. Don't fall for all the other areas because it's just not going to work. Again, like, be very discerning and careful about buying in Perth. It's just not the same as every other market. Really, I did a previous episode on this only a few weeks ago, and I just basically put together my draft picks and expected returns. This is for the last 10 years. So you can see the city and then the price growth expectation. I actually included Adelaide, Gold Coast and Sunny Coast in this one. So you clearly see the winner is Melbourne by far, followed by Geelong, Newcastle, Central Coast, Sydney, Wollongong, Hobart, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunny Coast, Perth, then Adelaide. So all of them I expect to grow over the next 10 years, and I actually expect, especially Perth and Adelaide, that 15 to 30 and 15 to 25% to happen within the next 2. All of that growth will happen, and then I think it'll go silent for, 5 to 10 years. It'll probably go silent for. It'll go silent for a long time. Again, it may even dip down a little bit. Those markets can do that. But clearly here, there's no doubting about it. Melbourne, I actually think it'll do above 100%. My median series there is 105%. The lowest I think it'll do is 90. So if you line up 2025 to 2035, the end of it, I mean, this is where I think the market's going to be. Melbourne is so underpriced, so is Geelong. I mean, it can't stay like that for much longer, to give you an idea. So look, that's the best regions to buy. I've given you a definitive kind of expectation of it. Now, of course, things can happen, and there's never 100% certainty in anything. But going off long-term trends and what is going to honestly happen, this is what I'm expecting to. So anyway, look, we're coming to the end of this episode, but I hope it's been good for everyone. I'm going to do a monthly update every month from here on because it's really important for all my listeners, and I know people like seeing that. But if you're someone who's serious about getting in the market and you're looking for a buyer's agent who genuinely care about what you're doing, I'm someone who's not looking just to make a buck. I want to do good business for good people. Please reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. What happens here is you book in a time with me. It goes straight in my calendar and yours as well, where I give you a phone call. Generally lasts for about 30 minutes or so. We discuss what you want to do. I'll give you sort of some options. We formulate a strategy around that, and we go from there. Now, look, for those also who aren't really serious about, getting in the market right now, it might be 3 to 6 months. It might be, I don't know what to do in the market. I still suggest you reach out for a chat because getting the strategy right is more important than the purchase itself. I can't tell you how many people I've come across who have already bought a couple of properties. They come to me and say, I own one in Dubbo, I own one in Bathurst, I own one in Geraldton. And they say, what should I do? I can't afford to buy any more. And I say, I hate to say this, mate, but you need to sell all of them. They're just all shit investments and buy one or two good ones. And this is where the strategy comes in important because if you stuff up the strategy, you're going back years in time as to what you're going to do in the future. So it's very important to get that right. But anyway, for everyone again, www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. All of the details are in the link below. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.